Hello and welcome to my channel, Bevvy with Beth. I'm Beth, and today I am drinking, they're amazing. They're a cold brew tea by Twinings, and they're called Cold Infuse. And this one in particular is the passion fruit, mango and blood orange, and I cannot get enough of this. It's delicious. I do find some of them, they're perfect because they're completely sugar-free without any faffing about. And they're just little fruit tea bags that then just sit in your drink and diffuse. You can pop them in a water bottle and, you know, then they'll get, the flavour builds up over a bit of time. And they're absolutely perfect. The delicious things that, today we're going to talk about kind of the first steps of keto. And one of the things I struggled with the most was I already drink so much, and I normally drink water, especially when I'm at work. I drink water during the day. And then when it comes to the end of the day with my evening meal, I used to have a glass of lemonade. And it was just nice to have something different to drink. And like tea and coffee are a separate thing altogether. They have their own jobs to do. I wanted something to have with my dinner that was not necessarily, kind of sweet-ish. And this has been brilliant. So that's what I'm drinking today. So go and get yourself a drink and we shall get into how to start on keto.
I can't forget the day we met. Your eyes so blue, me pressing through. I can't forget the day we met. Your smile so bright, it made me swoon. Our love is like a summer's day.
So we want to talk about getting started in keto. So the first thing, the very first thing is a little side note that I'm not an expert. I'm still learning this diet myself. I've been doing it for a few months. I feel comfortable in promoting it, if you see what I mean, that like I'm happy with the diet, so I don't mind talking about it, but I'm by no means an expert. In this video I'm going to link a couple of the videos that I watched when I first started, that gave me the push firstly to realise that keto was for me, and also the information that I needed on how to get through the first stages. So I'm just going to give you the first few steps, the first 4 things that I think you need to look at, consider and do in order to start down the keto path. So the first thing is to start slow. Now, I mentioned this in my How I Reclaimed My Health video, where I, explained then that the main reason I feel like I'm healthy again is because I'm on the keto diet. And I explained in that video that I went from my diagnosis in June to not starting keto until the following August. So it was a full year from reducing my sugar through to actually starting a fully ketogenic diet. And I really believe that if you look into this diet and you think it's going to be helpful and healthful and possible for you, then it being such an extreme diet, if you go into it in an extreme way, it's not going to be sustainable. And there's just no point in doing that. So my first piece of advice is, when you first look at it, take a step back and slow down. You don't need to empty your cupboards overnight and get into ketosis within a week. It's just, there's no reason to do that. This is going to be a lifestyle that's going to help support your condition and get rid of most of the symptoms that you're experiencing in a really delicious way. You don't need that to start in a week. You've had this condition for however long since you first had your periods. You're not going to die from having to take 6 months to a year to change your diet into a much more healthful and sustainable way. So that's definitely my first tip, would be go slow. So the second one is to actually have a look at where you're at right now, or what your diet looks like. So I've mentioned before that I made up a spreadsheet before I started changing my diet. Once I was diagnosed and knew that sugar was the key to getting my health back, I made it. I'm not saying you have to make a spreadsheet. I made a spreadsheet, but you can do it however you like. Write a food diary and just take some snapshots of the labels of foods that you eat most often, and get an idea of, you know, what sugars you're eating, where your sugars are mainly coming from. You know, is it from your snacks? Is it your main evening meal? Is it your breakfast? Where is that sugar really coming in? Maybe it's all of it. Like that's okay, that's possible, because carbs are delicious. So, you know, have a look at where you're at right now and see where those sugars are coming from mostly. And I feel like that's really important, because then you can start to see where your first changes need to be. So for me, I think it was breakfast. That wasn't necessarily where my main carbs were coming from, because I was eating a lot of fruity sugars throughout the day. But I could definitely see how my breakfast was what set me up for the day. So I knew that if I started by changing my breakfast, I was going to be setting myself off on a good way. Maybe you'd find that lunch, maybe you don't even eat breakfast, and you find that lunch is your main starter. That's what kind of like gets you through the day, is that lunch in the middle. Or maybe it's your evening meal, and what you need is something that's going to get you through the night. Then, you know, have a look at where you're at. Take stock of what you're doing right now, so you get an idea of what needs to change first. So then the third thing is what you eat on this diet. Get some books, you know, there's ebooks out there. Do some research, just Google evening keto meals or keto breakfasts, and there's lots of information out there. There are YouTube videos about how to make pizzas that are keto, and, you know, if there's a food that you really want to try and that you don't want to give up, you think that's your real killer, you know, can't imagine going without bread, look up a recipe for keto bread. Have a look at it. Is it something that you think you could eat? Are those meals sounding good to you? Because if you're going to start this diet and you don't even like the food that's on the diet, if you've already not eating meat and all the recipes you see are for meat, not that it has to be, but do you see what I mean? It's going to put you off. And the idea of trying to do a diet, technically long term, although we'll get later on in this kind of series, we'll get into how keto long term works, but certainly for a decent amount of time to get yourself back into a healthy position. If you don't even like the food, then it's not going to work for you, and then you might want to look at how to incorporate some of the principles of a keto diet that could still help you out, but that aren't going to make you miserable because you're not eating the food that you like, because that's never going to work. The very last thing is to take first things next. So when you first decide that this is the diet that you want to go on, take a look at those obvious sugars. For me, I was putting 3 teaspoons of sugar in my coffee. Well, that's the first thing to go. And suddenly I've freed myself up from a lot of sugar that I shouldn't have been eating. I was drinking 3 cups of coffee a day with 9 tablespoons. All right, calm down. Wasn't that bad. No. 9 teaspoons of sugar. 9 teaspoons of sugar a day just from my coffee. So once you've decided that it's what you want to do, then tackle the main thing first. Get rid of your added sugar. If you're still eating cereals for breakfast, if you're still having bread in a sandwich for your lunch, if you are still putting potatoes on your plate for your evening meal, at this point, that's fine. Take the sugars out of your drink. Swap your sugary drinks for a sugar-free drink. Even if you go for your lemonades, sugar-free lemonades and diet cokes and anything like that, that means that you're instantly reducing your sugar in the most obvious ways. The reason I advise that is because you will be shocked at how that makes you realize that this is the right step to take. That you will cut out those initial things, and then you'll realize that this is the right thing for you. I think I've mentioned before that kind of feeling of, I'm on the right track. That although I had a little bit of weight loss. It was more kind of like the swelling for the inflammation that sugar was causing from all the insulin that was running around. That went away. But it was the energy as well, the not having those crashes, and you can just tell like within a few weeks that just cutting out the obvious sugars makes a difference for you, and that just gives you a boost then just to keep on going and get to the next stage, which is what the next video in this series will be about, is what to do once you've started, made the decision you're going to start. What are we going to do then? So if you're interested in finding out how to do the keto diet, then hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of this series. If you found this helpful, then give it a like. Any questions or comments that you have that will kind of help me to gear the videos in a direction that you're looking for, let me know down below. And thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.